Good evening. Welcome to the City of Gaithersburg's Board of Appeals meeting, April 7th, 2020. The meeting is now in session. Because we're using the video conferencing, I'd like to do a roll call of our board members attending this evening, and I'll call you by name, and if you could just say here or present. Aaron Kotok?
Here.
Robert Chiswell?
Here.
Gary Young?
Here.
And Sarah Yazin?
Here.
And I'd like to welcome you, Sarah, to our Board of Appeals. Many thanks for your ability to join us tonight, as well as joining us on the board as an alternate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so first up on our agenda is the approval of the November 13th, 2019 minutes. Can I have a motion from one of the board members? Please state your name if you'd like to present a motion, and if you're going to second, please state your name also.
Robert Chiswell, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the November 2019 meeting.
Thank you, Robert.
And this is Aaron Kotok. I'll second.
Thank you, Aaron. I'll open it up for discussion. And I'll just call you by name. And if you have no comment, just say no comment, or please present your comments. Aaron?
No comment other than it's an accurate reflection of what I believe the meeting contained when we met the last time.
Okay. Robert?
No comment?
Okay. Gary?
No comment.
And Sarah?
No comment.
Okay. Well, that ends the discussion portion of the minutes. So now I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so then I guess I'll do a roll call also for the ayes. Aaron, your vote?
Aye.
Robert, your vote?
Aye.
Gary, your vote?
Aye.
And Sarah, your vote?
Aye.
Okay, and my vote is aye also. So the motion passes. The minutes are now passed 5-0. All right, so first up on our agenda, thank you very much. First up on our agenda, or the next item on our agenda, is an amendment to special exception. And I'd like to introduce the case. It's Board of Appeals, number 844-2020. It's Jolly Shows. With Frank Joseph and Sons to set up a temporary carnival at 701 Russell Avenue. And I'd like to call on Caroline now, if you would go ahead and Caroline Seiden to go ahead and present the record.
Thank you. Good evening. This is a public meeting on Board of Appeals case BOA 8444-2020. It amends special exception BOA 8144-2019. No public hearing is required for this amendment to special exception. The petition requests an amendment to special exception BOA 8144-2019, amended by Frank Joseph and Sons Jolly Shows for a temporary carnival from May 13th, 2020 through May 25th, 2020 on the northeast parking lot of Lake Forest Mall, 701 Russell Avenue, Gaithersburg, Maryland. Property is located in the C2 General Commercial Zone as allowed by Section 24-118-2 of the City of Gaithersburg zoning ordinance. Before I introduce the applicant, I just would like to mention that given the uncertainty of when certain operations might open up, there is a change to what we typically have as our first amendment to, or our first condition of the resolution to allow for a change in the carnival date. So I just wanted to mention that, and that no approval that any of you make tonight would supersede any mandate from the state that to remain closed. So with that, I just wanted to introduce Peter Joseph, the applicant, who is here for, I don't know how many years this is, the 7th, 8th maybe year that we've had a review of this use.
Okay, thank you very much, Caroline, and welcome, Peter. I'm going to ask if maybe you unmute, and I'm going to give you the oath for the witness there. Okay, so you'll have to unmute yourself. Okay, thank you for raising your hand. Okay, do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony that you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. All right, well, Mr. Joseph or Peter, would you please just go ahead and just give us a brief overview of what what you're planning for the carnival for this year?
Yeah, the carnival is going to be the same as it's been in the previous years. Rides, games, and food. It's going to be a 2-week time slot, hopefully for that May date. I'm hoping. But no, everything is going to be the same as it's been in the past.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Joseph. Thank you, Peter. All right, so is there any of the exhibits that you'd like to go over, or is it the pleasure of the board that we just open it up for questions to the board members?
That's fine. That's fine. I don't have any.
That's okay.
No problem.
Go ahead and open it up there. So again, I'm going to call you by name, and it's in the same order that I did before, just to let you know. So Aaron, you'll be up first. Do you have any questions for Mr. Joseph and the carnival this year?
So I heard you. Well, welcome back. And I did hear you. You mentioned no changes this year. No changes at all, or no material changes? Are there any new rides, any new layouts? I mean, anything at all?
Everything is going to be the same, Aaron. Same layout, same rides. The only thing this year, it's going to be 2 weeks long as opposed to last year. I think I just operated for 1 week.
Got it. And obviously, as we've discussed, dates are up in the air right now, depending on sort of what's actually going to happen. Do you have a minimum amount of notice that you're going to need in order to make a call? So, you know, if Maryland hasn't made a clear enough call by a certain date, then you would cancel regardless. Do you have thoughts on coming at a different time of the year, if at all possible, or is this going to be if it doesn't happen this year, we'll look ahead to next year?
No, that's a very good question. Right now, Aaron, you know my schedule better than me, unfortunately, for 2020. Honestly, I don't have the slightest idea, Aaron, when I'm going to be open for 2020. It's all up basically to the governor. All up to the Governor Hogan, you know, when he says, you know, special events, you know, with so many persons can get started again. Honestly, I'm being realistic. I'm thinking probably June-ish. I think June would be a safe, you know, timeline to say I think I should be getting started by then. Hopefully earlier, but I'm really looking to June.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Do you have any further questions?
No, none for me.
All right. Let's move on to Robert. Do you have any questions for Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, just one quick one. Hopefully this will, you know, come to fruition this year. With the many tents that are leaving Lake Forest Mall and not as much, you know, day traffic coming through there, do you have any other plans to help spread the word more that, you know, your carnival's open? Because you're not going to have as much foot traffic coming through the mall.
Yeah. Well, Robert, you know, I don't know if you've been in there lately, but you know, that mall, it's been on its last leg for the last couple of years. So what I've been doing is you know, television commercials, you know, flyers in the mail, that sort of thing, you know, to get it out. Last year, I really did a lot of advertising because I saw, you know, the mall stores were, you know, basically, you know, dead. The mall was dead. And honestly, last year was the best year that I had at Lake Forest Mall. But I did do a lot of advertising, and I plan on doing that this year.
Great, because I'm looking forward to taking my grandson there.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Well, thank you, Robert. Do you have any additional questions?
Nothing additional at this time.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So we'll move on to Gary. Gary, do you have any questions for Mr. Joseph?
Mr. Joseph, you know, I think it's my third year I've been in front of you, and I just want to wish you and your business luck, and hopefully you'll be back in business in that June timeframe.
Sir, I really appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that. And I hope all small businesses make it through these tough times. But I appreciate that. I really do.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Any additional questions? Okay, let's move on to Sarah. Sarah, do you have any questions for Mr. Joseph?
I was going to ask something, but Aaron already asked it, so I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. So, Mr. Joseph, I just have a question. It's related to if the dates change,
Mhm.
and it deals with the governor also. But the question is, as I saw in your opening letter, that the rides actually need to be inspected
Mhm.
by a state licensing agency.
Mhm.
How early are your rides inspected prior to the actual placement for the carnival itself
Sure.
at Lake Forest?
No, I understand. Here's the way it works. In other words, it takes me 2 days to set up. I'll pull on the grounds like, let's just say, for instance, the dates what we're going to go with. I'll
Yeah.
pull on the grounds like May 11th, which is a Monday.
Okay.
I'll set up the 11th and the 12th. The state of Maryland, the Department of Labor Licensing and Regulations, they will send like 3 inspectors out there to inspect the rides on Wednesday morning prior to opening. And they check all the rides out and they put, a certificate, that shows, that they were inspected. So, but right now, as of right now, that program for the state of Maryland is on hold until the coronavirus, we get situated with that. Yeah, right now it's on hold.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Mhm.
Mr. Joseph. So when we go forward, we at least have a sense of how the licensing works from the state.
Sure.
So I appreciate your explanation. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, well, let's see now. I think Aaron asked my question too, so we're good. And so at this point, are there any further questions from the board?
Actually, I do have two more.
Sure.
Sort of piggybacking on that last set of questions. It's probably too early, and the answer I assume is probably no. But has there been any indication of any changes to procedures for inspection post the crisis in light of I don't know, the cleanliness, the hygiene, the sanitation, things like that?
I don't think, Aaron, I don't think anything, on that part, is going to change. As far as, the amusement ride device inspection. Now, changes might come from like the health department,
Right.
that sort of agency. But as far as, the ride safety division, no, I don't think anything will change with that.
And what's your typical attendance on a typical evening? I think you've answered that question before, but I'm curious.
Let's see, Aaron, I want to say like a Monday through Thursday, you might get, a couple hundred people out there, on the weekends. That's when you get your business. Like a Friday night, you could get, 400 or 500 people out there,
Uh,
on a Friday night. Saturday, you could have 800 to 1,000 people, because, you're out there from 1 o'clock in the afternoon till 11 o'clock at night, you got the hours, to generate, a lot of customers.
so if there were a scenario when we came back
Mhm.
and public gatherings at amusement parks, whether permanent or temporary, were permitted, but with some sort of crowd control
Mhm. Mhm.
element, like they're doing at
Mhm.
store. Do you have a
Sure.
plan in place for managing crowds, whatever directive you're
Yeah.
given, and then B,
Yeah.
if so, and there needs to be sort of a holding pen, for lack of a better
Mhm.
term.
Exactly.
Do you have obviously the parking lots are huge, but
Mhm.
is there any plan in place for sort of what that space would be?
Right. And yes, I do have a plan in place. At Lake Forest Mall Carnival, we put the perimeter fence. So it's one way in and one way out. So what I would have right there is, somebody with a clicker, you know, hey, when X amount of people come in, X amount of people come out and so forth, Yeah, I do have that in place. And that's what I was hoping to do if I was able, to get started, in another location, if that was to come into effect, put a
Mhm.
perimeter fence and have somebody there, with a clicker to monitor, the number of persons.
Sure. So I guess maybe this next one's a question for Caroline. Question: if the contingencies, we've already talked about a contingency around timing, but if there's a contingency around the amount of space that has to be taken up, is there more we should be considering, or is that sort of out of our purview here?
Well, part of what you're reviewing is the actual plan for the carnival. So first of all, it would be something that would the fire marshal would have to approve, because he's reviewed and approved the setup as it is now. I imagine if there was a change in the layout, unless you all choose, and Frank might want to chime in whether or not we could do it by staff. I'm not sure that we could. That might be something that would require coming back to the board for another amendment. Right now, we just have the condition related to timing. We don't have a condition. I'm not sure that staff would be able to approve a new layout.
And again, folks, if that was come, I'm sorry, can I say something?
Please go forward, Mr.
Yeah, in other words, if that was to come to effect, hey, in other words, you're only allowed a maximum of, say, 250 persons, you know, at your event, you know, at one given time. In other words, I would keep the same layout. I wouldn't shrink it up or anything. I would keep the same layout with the same attractions, just, you know, monitor, you know, the number of attendees.
Yeah. And I guess that would get, go ahead, sorry.
Were you, I'm not sure if Aaron was thinking maybe it would expand so that you so that you could have more distance between people within the same.
Right. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, you know, with that given space, even though, you know, that parking lot is it's not used for anything,
right?
You know, they allow me so much space,
right?
And you know that's all I'm going to set up in. No, I'm just hoping, you know, at that given time, you know, 250 people would be okay, you know, to do something like that. You know, I just hope, you know, it's nothing less than that. Honestly, if they come up with like a 50-person number, it's not going to work for me. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Unless
so I guess
unless I charge maybe like $500 a wristband.
That's a different story. Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is if, let's see. So like exhibit number 7, for example, if that.
It's on page 17.
On page 17. Thank you. I had it in front of me, and then of course I've scanned. If that requires a significant expansion beyond what's drawn there and what's described in the draft resolution, will we require a, you know, another discussion about that piece of it?
Let's see, page 17 we're on.
Packet page 17, yes, and that's a layout of the Lake Forest parking lot.
Right. Okay.
Brian, if you can put up page 7. Oh, here it comes. I think it's putting on page 17. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Good. No more split screening for me. Good. Thank you.
Now, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
So I guess this Mr. Joseph, is maybe less of a question to you than it is to Caroline and Frank, just about the implications of if there's any material change to exhibit number 7 in terms of how much space is required here. Would we need to revisit this again?
Yeah, I think we would have to come back to the board, and there've been a couple of times over the course of the Mr. Joseph's run at Lake Forest that we actually have held special meetings of the board in order to review something and make some amendment either to the date. I think it was maybe to the date a couple of times. So I think we would have to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
It would also affect, you know, there's an ongoing parking waiver that's been granted by the Planning Commission. And if there were changes to the amount of parking, which I know sounds kind of funny since it's well over parked, but nevertheless, there might be a change that needs to go through the Planning Commission for an additional parking waiver as well.
Got it. So just so that I'm clear, procedurally, the way the resolution is drafted, assumes that if there is a material change like that, we'd have to come back and have that meeting. We don't have to put that in as a contingency or anything like that.
Yeah.
Or condition, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Sorry for sidetracking us a bit there.
That's good. And Frank, do you have any additional comments that you'd like to provide?
No, this has been drafted to allow a change of the date, but as far as the site layout, the site layout is what's permitted. Certainly if less was permitted, less size, and it worked within the site layout, that might be fine. But if it expanded or changed in some way, it would require you to take another look at that.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Aaron, do you have any additional questions?
No, thank you.
No. Okay. So I'll circle back to the board. Is there any additional questions from the board on the presentation by Mr. Joseph this evening? Okay. Hearing none, I will go ahead and see if there's anybody else attending the meeting that would like to provide public comment. As in, has anybody called into the meeting?
So Carol, no one actually registered for tonight, so there is going to be no public comment during the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll move on. And so I am now going to call for a motion to close the record. So may I have a motion to close the record so that we can go ahead with the rest of the review of the draft resolution?
Sure. This is Aaron. I'll move to close the record on BOA 84442020.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so the motion was made by Aaron Kotok and the second was made by Gary Young. All right, I'm going to call for the vote by roll call. Aaron, your vote please to close the record.
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And myself is aye. So the vote to close the record passes 5-0. All right, we're going to move on now and we're going to review the draft resolution. And so, let's go to the page here. Is there any further discussion now from the board? And I should just say, Mr. Joseph, we thank you for attending the meeting. We're now going to move into discussing the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so let's move forward now with the board, and we are now going to have our discussion regarding the actual resolution in front of us. Is there any further discussion? Oh, go ahead, Mr. Joseph.
Are you guys finished with me?
I believe we are at this point. At this point in the meeting, we're going to, if you want to stay, we're going to actually vote on this matter this evening. So you're welcome to stay as if you were actually in the city chambers. Okay.
And I'll make it so that you can stay, sir, but you won't be able to speak.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Now.
I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
everything. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Good luck.
Good luck. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward now with the board discussion of the resolution or any other additional comments you may have on the special exception in front of us this evening.
And I'll just start by saying, you know, with no material changes in the proposal than what we've approved in many years leading up to this, I don't see any reason not to approve it. We've already gone ahead and added a condition around date, and to the extent any of the other concerns that were raised in this meeting come up, obviously we can convene the Board of Appeals as necessary for any other changes that we may need to review and approve.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Anyone else?
I totally agree.
Go ahead. Okay, Robert? Gary?
I just totally agree.
Okay, thank you, Robert. We heard you. Gary?
Yep, I'm good with approving.
Sarah?
I'm good too. I just want to, I'd forgotten, is this like the 15th year consecutive year he's done this? Is that about right?
I think it's 9. I think it's.
I don't think it's that long, but
Okay,
it's,
so not, okay.
yeah.
All right.
9 years. Okay, anything else, Sarah? I think this is going to be a nice opportunity once we're done with the COVID pandemic stay-at-home crisis, that this is actually something that will be nice for the community to come out and enjoy once again. It's very timely that we actually are having this meeting at this time for this special exception. Okay, so I will need someone to make a motion and read the resolution. Let's see. I'll need a motion to approve. Well, Caroline, I'm going to defer to you. Do we read the resolution first?
You don't need
No.
you don't need to read the resolutions. You just need to make a motion. Someone might have the language. You don't need to read the whole resolution though.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do I have a volunteer to make a motion for this resolution?
Yeah, this is Robert. I'll make a motion that the Board of Appeals, based on the findings and conclusions outlined in the draft resolution, approve amendment to special exception application BOA 8444-2020 and adopt resolution BOA 8444-2020 with the 3 conditions presented.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, I'm going to call for the vote by roll call. Aaron?
Aye.
Okay. Robert?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Myself is aye. Motion passes 5-0. All right, that concludes the special exception portion of the meeting this evening. I'm going to ask if there's any additional information from the staff, starting with Caroline.
Now, our next meeting is scheduled for May 13th. We obviously have no idea whether we will still be doing it this way or not. The deadline is not until next week, so we may have, there were a few possible applications pending. Haven't heard from anybody in a while, so it may be that we do not meet in May. But I will just point out, if Mr. Joseph's carnival dates get shifted, his carnival was scheduled for actually May 13th. So it's also possible, if anything changes, that he has another, has the ability to come back in May before a change in dates or a change in layout. So that kind of worked out nicely. And thank you all for being the city's first public meeting on Zoom. It was a great feat for everybody involved, including our IT department, which I would like to really thank mostly of all. And hope everybody is well.
Thank you, Caroline. And Frank, is there anything that you'd like to present to the board this evening?
No, I just would say thanks to everybody for both IT staff and Brian Helms, and also Caroline and Greg and everybody for working with all of this, and also the board members. This is something new. We're having to learn a lot of new things here these last couple of weeks, things that we didn't expect. And, 10 years ago, we would have had a very hard time conducting any of this. So there are some things to be thankful for as well. In terms of public access, we are being very careful to make sure that the public access is maintained, that the public does have the opportunity, if they do want to comment, not only at this, but certainly at future meetings as well. This was really the first one, but certainly appreciate the chair and the members for conducting it in that way, and we'll move forward from here. So thank you all.
Thank you, Frank, very much. And I personally want to thank every one of the board members attending today, and welcome Sarah again to our board, and wish you well during this time period of quarantine. And with that, I'm going to call for a motion to close the meeting.
I'll move that we close the meeting of the Board of Appeals this evening.
Okay, the meeting is now officially over. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Thank you all.
Everybody.